All right, it is 6 o'clock. We were prior to this in executive session. I would entertain a motion to return back to open session.
Motion to return to public session.
So we are back in open session. While in executive session, we did discuss contractual matters. We did not take any action, or we have no actions to take from that. Just for the benefit of the public, we did do our statement of public notice, moment of silence, pledge allegiance, and approval of the agenda prior to going into the other room. So with that, we're going to jump straight into the actual meeting that is scheduled from here on out, starting with some special recognition. And I believe Dr. Scroggs is going to do that for us.
Hello and good evening. I am excited to share with you our embarrassment of riches in terms of our artists. We have more than 30 All-State recipients
Wow.
at the Midland High School level from 7 schools, 4 middle schools, and all 3 high schools. A lot of times we know our marching bands are absolutely outstanding. They're always first or second in everything they do, but less forward-facing is what we do in terms of symphonic band and our preparation and the more classical approach. And this is an achievement in that area. This is the musicianship of our best artists, and we want to just take a moment and recognize this state recognition. This is the highest honor they can get on this side of the band world, and we want to call attention to that. So at this time, I would call Fort Mill High School's band director, Ren Patel, forward to just talk a little bit about this, and then we'll recognize our individual student recipients.
All right, good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Ren Patel. I am a band director at Fort Mill High School, and I'm also the chair of our region of band programs in the South Carolina Band Directors Association, which allows me a slightly different vantage point when looking at these auditions and results and data. Like athletics, band students are also all-region and all-state, can earn those statuses as well as musicians. However, to earn such a distinct status, the students must prepare a comprehensive audition and perform for judges. These auditions consist of fundamental scales, virtuosic solos, terminology in different languages, and the true difference maker, sight reading, which involves performing a piece of music they have never seen before and are given scores based on their technical and artistic integrity. Simply put, it is an extremely rigorous and process, and not for the faint of heart. In early January, over 9,000 students in South Carolina auditioned for what's known as the all-region audition. In our region, out of 6 possible regions, over 1,700 students auditioned for the first round to earn all-region status. I'm extremely proud to say that of all the students that made all-region in our region, 46% of those students come from Fort Mill School District. So that's well beyond the 32. All right. The top scorers per region are allowed to move to the second round, and they have to compete against the best players from other regions as well. An already brutal audition becomes even more critically scrutinized, where even the slightest blemish in sound can be the difference maker. All of our students deserve recognition and praise. Students practice for hundreds, if not thousands of hours, often after school with their directors and teachers, and showed poise and courage under very stressful conditions. In the end, with a lot of hard work, these students can truly be known as the absolute best musicians in our state. And some of these fine young people can arguably be considered the best young musicians in the country. We are incredibly proud of them, and each of us directors is honored to present our Fort Mill School District All-State musicians. Thank you.
So we'll let the directors call their own students, and we'll represent them by school. We'll start off with Forest Creek.
From Forest Creek Middle School, we have Jacob Belcher.
Just because I'm curious, can you also tell us like what instruments they play when you announce them? Tuba. All right.
Right.
I'm Dustin Hook. I'm the band director at Springfield Middle School, reading for Mr. Fuller, who's unable to be here today. Sid Galena, trumpet. Emily Lee, euphonium. Hayden Wilson, percussion.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Eisenhower at Gold Hill Middle School. We have two who were unable to be here. They're softball players and are currently doing that. We have their sisters, Rachel Hildebrand, who is an oboe player, and Elena Hildebrand, who are French horn players. Then we also have Madison Leach, who is an oboe player. Kevin Paramal Karthikeyan, who's clarinet. Owen Eisenhower on clarinet. Skylar Shepard on clarinet. Nathri Vijay on French horn. Maxim Smith on tuba. And Molly Cottle on percussion.
Guys, everybody slide in together for me, okay?
Thank you.
Congratulations, good job.
Great job.
So I'm back again. Dustin Hope, Springfield Middle School. Lydia Holman, clarinet player. And then Katerina Kinchek is currently doing a horse riding lesson and could not be here to get ready for a competition. So she's an alto saxophone player.
Very cool.
Good evening, I'm Patrick Butler, Band Director, Cobble Ridge High School. We have a couple folks unable to join us this evening. On tuba, Henry Lee, and baritone, euphonium, Harrison Turner. Join us this evening, Lana Lee, clarinet. Scott DeArmond, clarinet. And Zane Snipes, who is first chair bass clarinet.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, from Fort Mill High School, Catherine Smith, contrabass clarinet. Paul Treese, tenor saxophone. Robert Hildebrand, French horn. Not with us tonight, he's working on a trombone quartet in college, Matthew DiNapoli. Izzy Stricker, percussion. Also not with us, she's getting some senior awards at Fort Mill High School right now, which is a different ceremony happening simultaneously. Haley Clefman, flute. Zoe Nosneski, flute. Lila Hain, bassoon. Katie Ramft, clarinet. Also not here, working on a trombone quartet, Casey Stauffer, trombone. And finally, Jaden Marcus, euphonium. Everybody take one step back for me and slide in together.
Squeeze in. Squeeze, squeeze.
Good evening. On behalf of Band Director Ray Linkus, I'm going to be recognizing our 3 outstanding musicians from Nation Ford High School. They're not here this evening because their spring concert is tonight. So I'll read those 3 names for you. That is Jack Starkey on tuba, Molly Lassard, clarinet, and Katie Hansen, clarinet.
As the former clarinet player who was not All-State, I'm glad to see the representation, and I know how much effort it takes, so that's awesome. Congratulations to everyone. Our next agenda item is a school spotlight on Nation Ford High School. Chris Chandler, there he is. Hi, come on up.
Great. Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you again about how amazing we think Nation Ford High School is. At Nation Ford High School, we truly do believe in our mission and our vision. I think a lot of schools, you put it up on the wall, you put in your email signature, but this is something that we live and we believe. We believe that Nation Ford is dedicated to supporting all student learning through faculty collaboration and a sense of family. And our vision is to help all students learn at high levels. So the way we do that is we want to get to all means all. And if you look at all of the metrics, we're a great school. We have an excellent report card rating. We get rewards all the time. We have some of the highest test scores in the state. But we'd argue that we're not there. We're not meeting all yet. And so how we're working to get there is through faculty collaboration. We know that collective teacher efficacy is the #1 impact on student learning. And what that means is just teachers doing the work together and the right work together. The other way of getting there is through that sense of family. We believe so strong in that sense of family. We know that students and faculty need to feel that sense of belonging. And we're so fortunate. Our students are so involved. We have around 900 students that are involved in athletics. We have a large band. We have a growing chorus. We have about 40 clubs and organizations. We know that when students are involved and they feel like they belong, they do better in school. We also are very fortunate this year to go through the Blue Ribbon Lighthouse process. And while winning the award was great and it was a validation for some of the work that we've been doing, it also gave us an opportunity to see where we can get better, so we can get to that all. We really truly believe that as a school, we're willing to innovate. We're willing to do things differently. In fact, the joke is always like, we need a school to pilot it. Which school is going to pilot it? Nation Ford. Nation Ford will pilot it. We'll volunteer. And the reason that we're willing to volunteer and pilot things is because we want to get to all me and all. We want to challenge the status quo. We're not happy with where we are. We want to continue to get better. And so tonight we're going to talk about some ways that we're doing that. And so I'm going to start off by introducing our Assistant Principal for Instruction, Trina McFadden.
Good evening, everyone. I started at Nation Ford in 2015 as a science teacher, so I've seen the gamut of what it's gone through. A lot of positive successes, and I'm short, so sorry, y'all. Mr. Chandler spoke about Blue Ribbon Lighthouse. For us, it was less about the award and more about the process. If any school's been through that, it's very thorough, very nerve-wracking. The evaluator came in and she gave us tons of great feedback. Some things she affirmed that I know it's been that same way since 2015. Our teachers work very hard. We know that. We see that every day. We have a supportive learning environment for our students and our teachers, which is great. We have a highly qualified staff, and the thing that she left with, which was great, is that the love that we have for our students is evident. That's obvious. That's the thing that we live by. We love our students at Nation Ford, right? Some areas of growth that we were challenged by, all of her feedback kind of led us to focus more on that, was intentional classroom engagement. And I want to say just thank you to district level leadership and even our curriculum coordinators. They've jumped right in with us targeting that. Data-informed instruction and data-informed intervention and extension for our students, which that is an area where we can meet all. And for us, because we're focused on PLTs, and I'll have Ms. Potts join me in a minute, that to us is where we need to focus. We need to strengthen our collective efficacy by collaboration through our PLTs. So that's our solution for moving our students forward, for having our teachers work in one accord, and I'm gonna have Ms. Potts join me to speak more on that.
So as you heard both Mr. Chandler and Ms. McFadden speak, is that we truly believe that faculty collaboration is what is going to help each and every student be successful at Nation Ford High School. That all means all piece. And we do that through our professional learning teams. And we have 30 professional learning teams at Nation Ford High School. And they're focusing weekly on making sure that students have targeted support to be successful, not only in the content-specific areas, our 4 core content areas, but also in the elective courses, in PE, in every area at Nation Ford High School, so that every student can be successful. Within those professional learning teams, they are focusing on interventions, targeted support, making sure there's clarity in instruction so that they can be successful and so that our teachers can also learn through that process as well. One thing that we sometimes forget with being a professional learning community is it's not only about student learning, but it's also about the adults in the building learning as well. And so our teachers learning new instructional practices from each other so they're able to support each other and learn and grow each and every day, because in the end, that's what's going to impact our students. We know we've been successful because we've reduced our failure rate at Nation Ford High School since we fully implemented this process 2 years ago from 9.4 to 8.2%. And if all means all, then we want to keep seeing that number go down. So one important thing in this process, though, is that we have leadership. And a big focus area this year has been creating team facilitators for all 30 of those teams. As you can imagine, it is a big task to oversee 30 teams of over 120 teachers. And it takes leadership and it takes teacher leadership within that. So we have created team facilitators, which you're going to hear from one of those in just a minute, Haley Bartz. And it has taken intentional focus on creating leadership within our building so that they can take this process and move it forward, because it takes everyone to truly be able to do that within the professional learning community process. So I'm going to introduce Miss Haley Bartz, and alongside her is going to be our Teacher of the Year, Tyler Griffin. You may have seen from him recently on social media about Thankful Thursday, but they are part of the collaborative, the very first high school collaborative team of the year. And we are so excited to have that honor, and they're going to talk to you more about the work they've done specifically with their students to help each and every one of them be successful. And when I say each and every one, I truly mean each and every one. They're going to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into what this process looks like specifically for their students and why it takes all 3 of them on their team to help every kid, not just the ones who are on their Power School roster, be successful. So Ms. Bartz and Mr. Griffin, if you'll come on up, they're going to talk specifically about their team and why they were the collaborative team of the year and how they've helped their students be successful by working together.
Thank you for having us and just giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about what we get to do in our PLT. I just want to start by letting you know how our PLT has kind of evolved over the past couple of years since we really implemented this process. It has allowed us to go from being just coworkers that get along and share ideas to really being a purposeful team and having really purposeful collaboration that is now driven towards student success rather than just what we're doing. So we've become true teammates. We frequently bounce ideas off of each other. We share resources, but we also have the same goals. Our goal is that we want our students to succeed. We have shown success with that by our course, AP Human Geography is what we teach. They took their exam today. Our course has grown by over 100% in the past 4 years, and we've been able to maintain the same pass rate each year, which is amazing. And I mean, credit goes to the students, but I think things that we're doing together is definitely helping them achieve that goal. And also, we are friends. We really are not just coworkers. We regularly, along with Mr. Peltier, our other team member, we communicate regularly beyond designated time. We really care about each other and we care about our kids. Our goal this year was that we really want to make our students, all 196 AP Human Geography students, feel like they are our students, regardless of whether they're Mr. Griffin's classes, my classes, Mr. Peltier's. So the first thing we did to do that was we created a common Google Classroom where we put all 196 students in the same place. That was used so that any of us could post materials there, we could review. It allowed us to share really important information, especially about the exam, with all of the students at once. And what was really helpful over the past week, we created a collaborative question and answer form that any of the kids could access and that all of us could provide answers, just so that everyone could see that and help them prepare for the exam. Something else that we started for the exam last year, but we added to do with all of the units this year, was create review sessions. where at the end of every unit, Mr. Griffin would post a survey of the topics, and the kids could let us know which topics they wanted the most feedback on. And then we would each create content-specific flex review sessions that any of the students could go to. So again, regardless of whose roster they're on, they could go get extra help from one of us. And that really helped us to maximize our time, our ability to connect with the kids, and use our biggest strengths to help the students. And then the last thing that's been really helpful and allowed us to collaborate more was the use of pair assessment, which I am thankful to. I think it was Gold Hill Middle School. Some teachers shared that with me over the summer, but that has been an amazing collaborative tool for us to build our assessments digitally, to be able to get immediate feedback for data analysis. We get live results when the students are taking their assessment, so we can see right away which questions they're successful on, what areas they're struggling in, and it's allowed our PLT meetings to be much more purposeful. The data is already there, so we have that piece that we can immediately dig into and figure out what steps to go next. So yeah, it's been a wonderful year, and we definitely want to continue through this PLT process to grow and to help our students continue to be successful. I believe next we have Mrs. Cruft, our assistant principal, who is in charge of community outreach, and she is going to share a little bit about the sense of family piece.
Good evening. Speaking of sense of family, that is a big part of our, sorry, I'm a little taller than the last person. That's a big part of our mission statement, and like that was previously said, we don't just have it up on the wall and then move on with our life and not think of it again. So I did some digging last year into multiple studies from Massachusetts to California that showed that when schools and communities partner, then it benefits the students in lots of ways. Their attendance rates go up, the tardies go down, the referrals go down. And just there's that sense of belonging and trust with the families, and we have witnessed that occur this year. We started with, in the fall, hosting and that's what this one picture is. We went in the fall into the Twin Lakes community, and we had parent volunteers run grills for us, and we grilled hot dogs and had chips and just played with the kids, played soccer. And in the spring, we went to the Paradise community, and we did it at Steel Street Park. And this picture that y'all can see up here is from the Steel Street one just a few weeks ago. And we were also able to reach out to the after-school program in Paradise. They actually vanned or bussed their kids over from that program. So those are our future Falcons that we got to be to hang out with and play basketball with, and we had the little ones pull the names for raffles and had different things donated for the families. Several families got $50 gift cards to Walmart. They were just so appreciative. And simple ways that I watched that benefit that I would love to put into a research study, but our referrals are down from last year. Overall major referrals are down almost 300 from this time last year. And our minors, which are mostly tardies, are down almost 1,000. So I can't directly say like, hey, it's these cookouts or whatever, but I think it's, that sense of family overall and just those little things. I have also noticed little things like parents pick up the phone when they see our school calling. They call me back, they email me back. That was not necessarily happening near as often last year. So I wanted to share that. And then I also wanted to introduce two awesome students, Lena Baki and Shriti Parikh. These are two outstanding, amazing young ladies. Shriti Parikh is going to speak to you first. She's a junior, and she is president of the Cancer Kids First Club, and she was also the president of School Improvement Council, so I got to work with her all year on that. And after her, Lena Baki will also speak to you, and she's a senior, and she's our student body president. She's also a national merit finalist and a member of our School Improvement Council.
Thank you for having us. To start, I wanted to say that we wholeheartedly agree with Ms. Cruft. From the moment you walk in through the doors at NAFO, you can feel our sense of family, and you can feel it in teachers greeting students by name, classmates laughing in the halls, and staff who care deeply about every individual. It's more than just school spirit, it's a family.
Yeah, so at Nation Ford, I don't just get the sense that I'm here to graduate, or that's just another step on my path. I really feel challenged and encouraged and supported at school. And I do feel that school is helping me become the best version of myself. And this version isn't just someone who passes an EOC or behaves in class or eventually gets a diploma after 4 years. But it's someone who's encouraged to go beyond her comfort zone, someone who makes meaningful connections with teachers and adults in a safe and supportive environment, and someone who discovers her passions in clubs and classes. So I really do believe that Nation Ford is helping me grow into who I wish to become.
For me, this is because of the NAFO family surrounding me. I found strong support through the wide range of resources available for every student. With over 50 sports and clubs, Nation Ford prioritizes a sense of family by prioritizing involvement. Mr. Chandler always tells us at assemblies and orientations to get involved because high school is better when you're involved. And he's right. I found that to be exactly true. Whether you're interested in robotics, marching band, football, or theater, you'll find people who share your interests and want you to succeed. I've experienced this personally through my own club, Cancer Kids First.
So Student Council at Nation Ford aims to carry forward the spirit of inclusivity and empower every student to feel seen, heard, and included. And this April, Nation Ford hosted the Unified Games, and Student Council organized a Spirit Week to celebrate and highlight the diversity and strength of these athletes participating. Also, in January, Student Council organized a scholarship pageant that we do annually, but this time we highlighted the intelligence, integrity, service, and passion of the contestants rather than more traditional focuses.
Recently, we were also able to partner with our Teacher of the Year, Mr. Tyler Griffin, on his Thankful Thursday initiative. As a school, we were able to recognize our teachers, administrators, counselors, and staff overall with over about 1,300 appreciation notes in just over a week. It's not only our students that form our community, but teachers and staff as well.
Yeah, so Nation Ford is not just a special place to be because of the opportunities and academics we have. There really is a true community surrounding us. Our sense of family doesn't just appear here and there every so often, but it's intentionally built through involvement, compassion, and of course, our Falcon pride. So thank you for listening to us today, and I think we pass it over to Mr. Chandler.
I'd be remiss if I didn't stop for just a second to congratulate Lena. Not only is she a National Merit finalist, we actually just found out that she is a semifinalist in the U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. This award was created to honor the nation's most distinguished graduating students. She's one of only 621 in the entire nation. Wow. And we're gonna find out in June if she's one of the final 160. So congratulations, Lena. Hopefully tonight, you saw that we live our mission at Nation Ford. We're dedicated to supporting all student learning through faculty collaboration and a sense of family. We do truly believe that our strongest strength is our school family atmosphere and our culture. It's something that I felt 4 years ago when I walked the halls at Nation Ford, and I still feel today. We really believe that together we soar, and that's not just us, but that's also our amazing district leadership as well that helps us be successful. So I'm just grateful for your time and your willingness to hear us shout out our school again. And we'd be glad to take any questions that you have.
Yeah, I got one. This one is for, I think it's Ms. Barks and Mr. Griffin. You said that it's AP World History?
Human geography.
Okay. You said it's grown over by 100%?
Yes. From
I'm also not a math
Yeah, he's those are his statistics. I will just tell you, we went from 3 sections my first year taking it over in 2020 to 8 sections now. So it's, yes, it's more, yeah, a lot.
So question being, what do you attribute that to? Like that growth, I mean, that's pretty high. Like, where do you think that came from?
Well, I mean, besides, kids wanting to be with us. The growth, I think, is actually happening district-wide. I'm pretty sure it's similar in the other, in pretty much all 3 high schools in terms of the growth. But I think one is that it's a great introductory AP course. It's primarily taught to freshmen across the world. And so it is a great way for them to kind of get their feet wet into the AP atmosphere and really see if that's a route that they want to continue to take. And so I think that's part of it. I do think too that like when students and parents see the statistics, we present to parents every year about the course and kind of let them know the differences between the honors and the AP versions. So we send them the data, and I think when they see the data that, like, despite the growth, the pass rates stay the same, they're encouraged to let their students try.
Right, and just to touch on the data a little bit, I don't, this isn't exact, but I think about South Carolina, it's about 55%-ish pass the AP exam, which means they get a 3 or above on the AP exam. At Nation Forward, it's 88%, and that number stayed pretty close to 88% despite growing.
89 last year.
But I think a lot of it is like word of mouth. You know, they talk to one another. A lot of them like had siblings that have taken the course, and we just keep on coming up with new ways to teach it and to be innovative. You know, we always want to do more stuff. You know, we always at the end of the year like, oh, we could have done this. How can we do this better? And it's worked so far. Even our students took their AP exam today, and a lot of them are stressed out. They're tired by the end, but we're really happy where a lot of students end up saying, like, it was easier than I thought it was going to be. So that's always good news.
And he always throws a few dad jokes in at our meetings when we're introducing it to parents and students, and I think they like that.
I mean, and you said it, kids talk. And while a lot of them want to take AP classes and this is their first opportunity, the decision to actually go forward with it has a lot to do with the belief that this is a doable class. It's a fun class, even though it's a hard class, for sure.
We would agree.
And fun teachers to do it with.
Yeah, good question.
Mine's for Mr. Chandler.
Oh.
First, I want to say that Nation Forward, I was a school chair of the School Improvement Council the first 2 years the school opened. So I'm and then my daughter graduated from there, first 4-year full attendance. So I'm particularly happy to see all the successes and the continued growth of the school.
Yeah.
So that's just a comment. Our district is very diverse in many ways. There's a lot of different ways to measure diversity. But at your school, do you have a number, approximate's fine, how many different nationalities are represented? Because I know it's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, sir. It is quite a bit. We are certainly a very diverse school. Whether you count socioeconomics, you count racial, like all kinds of different measures, we're very, very diverse. If you want to know how many nationalities have come through the school, just walk into our commons and you see all the flags that are in the commons.
That's why
we actually had to keep going up in rows because we're running out of space. I don't have a specific number for you, but I can tell you that we have a lot of diversity at Nation Forward High School.
And there's hundreds of flags, right?
Oh, yeah.
Plus
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, many years ago it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
And so it's grown a lot.
It's somewhere around that now.
And I know there's a lot of English as a second language there, which presents its own set of challenges.
And that's one reason why, like going back to Ms. Cruft's point, that we partnered with the Twin Lakes community to go out into Twin Lakes to build those trusting relationships with them, because we know that is an area of growth for us that we can help those students be successful.
Yeah. All right, my last question is for Mr. Griffin. Are you ever mistaken as one of the students?
I actually added like a t-shirt and joggers on this morning, you know, and I do a little bit of like 21 Jump Street where I try to blend in and kind of get the word on the streets. You know, I use all the slang, you know, like bussin' and lit and all that. And it works out very well.
But do you know what all that means? That's
Mostly, yeah.
just throw it out there.
I try to learn as much as I can.
That's right.
I think the kids like the Beatles as much as I do, as far as I know. I think. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I've seen your post related to that.
Yeah,
so.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. That was it.
I mean, I know you said at the beginning, you know, yeah, we got this Blue Ribbon Lighthouse thing and we used it to learn from. And that's great that you're learning from it. But seriously, congratulations,
Thank you.
because it is no small feat. And I think it's just a testament that those who surveyed the school and did the analysis came to the same conclusion that we know about what an awesome school is. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was a learning process, but like I said, it was also a validation that we're doing some great things.
Yeah, congratulations. Thank you, guys.
Wonderful.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right,
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
thank you.
Great.
Our next agenda item is the approval of 2 sets of minutes. I'll start with the one from April the 1st. Were there any adjustments or corrections to those?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Those will stand with unanimous consent. And then also April the 15th, adjustments or corrections?
No changes.
All right, then those were also approved with unanimous consent. We have now come to the section for public participation. We have a 15-minute window, and I believe we have 3 cards. So I will call you up in the order they were handed to me, and you'll each have up to 5 minutes. If you'll start with your name and address, and then you may address the board. Starting with Brendan McCluskey.
Some materials to pass out as well. Do you don't mind our approach?
Okay.
Yes.
Looking down. Sir. Here, there's one. We got a collection. Two. There's 3.
Thank you.
There's a newspaper on the bottom.
Okay.
The rest of it is a statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we gotta go the whole thing.
How about that? Thank you.
Good evening. What I have provided tonight was already made public at the May 5th York County Council meeting.
Can you just state your name and address? Sorry.
Sure, sorry. Brendan McCluskey, 729 Warwick Way, Fort Mill. I'll start over. Good evening. What I have provided tonight was already made public at the May 5th York County Council meeting. Council members Audette and Cloninger are in support of a vote to cease and desist all construction permits. This report is phase 1 of an ongoing health risk assessment done by the Arnold School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina. This unbiased analysis is authored by Dr. Daniel Kilpatrick and a team of environmental health experts in regards to the dangers posed by Silfab at its proposed heavy industrial factory. This report assesses Silfab's chemicals and their quantities planned for storage and use on site. It clearly shows 4 rings around Silfab's proposed location, showing estimated worst-case air dispersion modeling of silane, hydrofluoric acid, anhydrous ammonia, and hydrochloric acid, with the largest radius of risk measuring 3.4 miles, threatening many citizens. If you have questions, I encourage you to seek further details on the next USC reports, plural, forthcoming. Highlighted are many vulnerable high-density sites, such as schools, daycares, senior assisted living facilities, hotels, and apartments. This isn't a new Flint Hill schools problem, it's a York and Mecklenburg County problem, and it has been this whole time. Emory University has warned you, now the university of your state will provide ongoing findings for you. Your school district's plans so far are reactive, which is not what anyone is asking for. Silfab's proposed factory is not a federally regulated facility. They can self-report. Their plans certified by the EPA simply means that the EPA has acknowledged receipt of what was submitted. That's the certification. Air quality testing won't matter for chemicals that are not filtered by your filtration systems. We are asking Fort Mill School District for proactive plans based on these types of studies. What happens if the automation fails on the acid scrubber? What happens when you tell parents the plan for their kids to shelter in place when there is a fire, explosion, or accidental release? Did you know that many of the children from your schools call the hotels on these maps a home? Did you know that seniors in those facilities on those maps depend on leaders making safety choices for them? even as adjacent property owners. Did you know that many families in those apartments on those maps have no financial choice but to send their kids to those schools? As each new report comes out, please consider this. Can you tell any of those people what you could have done but did not? Thank you. I'll continue to hold the map while the next speaker holds.
All right, our next speaker is Mary Catherine Langford.
That's me. My name's Mary Catherine Langford, and I now live at 469 Hawks Creek Parkway. I say now because, as I shared when several of you were in attendance at York County Council, my husband and I have been forced to move to keep our children safe. We are one of many families who've had to make the difficult decision to uproot our lives due to the negligence of this school district. Other parents are pulling their children from the district to go to charter or private schools or homeschool. As many concerned citizens have shared with you over the past 19 months, we understand that this board and district are not responsible for bringing CILFAB here, but your lack of a response is negligent. As my good friend Mr. McCluskey just shared with you, the health risk assessment from the University of South Carolina's Arnold School of Public Health shows the potential impact of chemicals CILFAB plans to use. The map shows many Fort Mill schools within the radii. I'd like to reiterate student population numbers provided by this district via email and on October 29th. Within the 0.2 mile impact radius of silane, that is flammable on contact with air, an estimated 1,408 students would be impacted at Flint Hill schools. Within the 2 mile impact radius of hydrofluoric acid, approximately 6,611 students would be impacted, adding Sugar Creek, Springfield schools, Pleasant Knoll schools, and Nation Ford. The district transportation office and this very building would be impacted as well. Finally, with the 3.4 mile impact radius of hydrochloric acid, approximately 8,700 students would be impacted, adding Gold Hill schools and Orchard Park. This does not include the number of teachers and staff that would be impacted as well. I attended Fort Mill schools K through 12th grade. In fact, Dr. Epps, I was a first grader when you opened Gold Hill Elementary, the same age my oldest son is now. When you speak about opening that school, I can hear the love you have for those children in your voice, including me. I find it hard to believe that you would intentionally put children in danger, but unfortunately, that's what this district is doing. This district is not unique. There are situations like this all over the country. The difference is most of those boards and districts are standing by their constituents, while you remain silent and unwilling to engage with parents. Given these chemicals would cause a severe impact to students, teachers, and staff, the district must have a risk elimination plan to only include moving CILFAB. We, the Coalition to Protect Fort Mill, call on the district again to not open Flint Hill schools until CILFAB is moved. Publicly demand York County revoke CILFAB's permits or join litigation as an adjacent property owner. We aren't internet researchers or hysterical parents. Emory and USC have presented you with the facts. Now do what you were elected and hired to do. Put children first every day.
Thank you. And then our third speaker, Jamie Castilla.
My name is Jamie Costilla, and I live at 325 Brixton Place. Mr. McCluskey just shared with you the results of the independent third-party health risk assessment obtained from the University of South Carolina. This report is non-biased. This report is what we parents, as well as Emory experts, have requested. Ms. Langford just shared with you the amount of students that will be impacted. This is irrefutable evidence that there is potential for harm due to CILFAB's operations. CILFAB Solar is not just another neighbor. This is a heavy industrial facility, one that handles hazardous material and operates with processes that carry both known and unknown environmental health and safety risks. And yet it sits right next to where our children are supposed to learn, play, and grow. Concerned parents and community members have raised alarms time and again, only to be met with deflection or empty reassurances that we're monitoring the situation or wait and see what happens with litigation. But monitoring is not a substitute for action, and waiting to see is not an option. Our children deserve protection, not passiveness. The failure to act is not just negligence, it's complicity. Complicity in endangering the health and safety of our children. SC Code Law, Section 6-29-950, expressly states, "It is unlawful for other officials to issue any permit for the construction or alteration of a building without the approval of the zoning administrator. No permit may be issued or approved unless the requirements of this chapter or any ordinance adopted pursuant to it are complied with. This would include the BZA determination. Based on this information, York County and SILFAB are acting unlawfully." 6-29-950 further indicates that an adjacent or neighboring property owner who would be specially damaged by the violation may, in addition to other remedies, institute injunction, mandamus, or other appropriate actions or proceedings to prevent the unlawful construction or occupancy of a building. Based on this information, we are asking for action grounded in facts. This isn't about speculation. It's about science, the law, and the right to protect our neighborhoods, our schools, and our families. The community has spoken, experts have spoken, and now it's time for this Fort Mill School District to act. We are asking this school board to stand with us parents against the unlawful acts of York County and SILFAB. We urge you to exercise your legal rights and fulfill your ethical obligations to protect our children in your district. Call York County Council, call York County Management, and demand they uphold the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is an update from Ms. Pratt on the superintendent search.
All right. Woo. We just met in executive session with our consultant. So we have rounded up phase 1 of our superintendent search. We closed applications. Our search firm reviewed the applications. They conducted round 1 interviews to narrow it down. And we have a list of names and resumes that we are going to focus on, and we will decide about interviewing them in the next week. And we intend to have 2 rounds of interviews. We are very excited about our day in the district for our finalists on the 19th of May, because it will give us as the board, as the decision makers, the opportunity to see our finalists interact with our staff and with our students. And it will, at the end of that day, give our community members an opportunity to meet and greet our finalists. We were not surprised that we had a huge number of applicants, because we think we're an awesome place to work. And Dr. Epps makes it seem like leading isn't too bad of a job around here. Not too bad. And so we're excited to be at this stage. We're glad that it has narrowed down to a tighter list and that we didn't have to do the hard work of that many applications. But it's proceeding well, and assuming that we don't have any big hiccups, we hope to have our new superintendent named, but not working yet, because we're gonna make you do your job. But not working yet. But we hope to send everybody home for the summer with that monkey off their back and knowing where we're headed next.
The only thing I would add is, and we have a very specific schedule.
Yes, and it's tight.
Between now and the end of the month that gets us through all of those interviews and activities that you mentioned. So we've got all that planned out. Thank you, Lippy and others who coordinated that. It's a
Big
busy
team
time,
effort.
but everything is on track.
Yes,
So,
we think so. We think so.
anything else? Anyone to add? All right, then we've got several staff reports, starting with the financial and impact fee update. Ms. Lordo.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm going to start with the monthly financials, and then we'll roll into the budget and discuss that. But in your packet, I've included the monthly financials for March 31st, and you can see that we have collected, on the revenue side, we have collected total revenue of $197,145,547, And I think what is important to outline on this graphic is that local revenue is supporting us. You can see on the far left, the green bar is the highest. Local revenue has supported us year to date, 119.7 million compared to state revenue of 65.5 million. We always like to point out to our taxpayers that fact, that's why our local revenue is so important, and what we deal with state funding as well.
Well, I know you're going to get
okay.
to it. I want to
Yes.
give a shameless plug that continues to say that our state budget and leadership does not fully fund public education.
Correct. Yes. We continue to see our interest earnings have been very positive in the market, has continued to be stable. So that has certainly helped us as we look at where we may stand with year end and what I may bring to you at the next meeting to consider for a year end transfer. As far as expenditures, I have not seen anything happen year to date that we did not expect for the budget. We always like to emphasize here that once again, we are primarily salaries and fringe costs driven. And this is easily depicted in the pie chart showing expenditures in the red at 87.3% are salaries and benefits. And I will go back and just mention on the revenue side, I do like to share, we had vehicle tax collections in March of $1,966,000. We had no significant delinquent real estate yet coming in, but we did have fee and lieu collections of a little over $600,000. And so when I looked at that and updated my year-to-date projections for where I think we may end June 30th for taxes, I think we'll probably be about 2.5 million over budget. So I'll certainly, last month I reported I thought we'd be about 2 million over, but with this fee and lieu payment coming in, I think we could potentially be at about 2.5 million over for local tax collections. So that's going to be important when we consider where we're going to end June 30th and what we may consider for transferring out at the next meeting.
It's going to be real important as you talk about the next item too.
Very, yes.
I don't know about y'all, but I think those new cars, I think I see them every morning. They seem to be a harder trip to work. Something's happening on the interstate or it's amazing.
It's very difficult right now with the road closure,
That's
also
right.
yeah. Getting here in particular.
It's a lot worse.
In particular.
And I was going to say, you know, obviously we'd rather have the in lieu, but at least
Right.
the fee in lieu of those taxes is positive.
Yes, absolutely.
expectations.
Any questions regarding the monthly, or we'll move on to impact fees? Okay. Impact fees collected to date, $74,988,992. We've collected on single-family units now 2,893 units, and multifamily 1,845, for a total of 4,738 units. In April, we collected on 10 homes. 5 of those were at the new rate that was approved by York County Council.
Seeing some new numbers
So
here.
saw some new numbers on the monthly report. So half of our homes are at the new rate. We also saw a big increase to start happening with apartments, townhomes, condos. We collected on 48 of those, and 24, half of those as well, were at the new rate. So that is playing into our total collections of the $74.9 million. Single-family homes for our 12-month rolling were only very equal. We're about 1.8% higher. But multifamily, we're about 44% higher for the last 12 months than we were the previous 12 months. So we are now seeing, remember, we had a period where townhomes, apartments were level, and now we're seeing some of that development start again and some permitting with townhomes and condos happen. The calendar average for 2024 was 839,000, but in April, with these collections, we were over the average and we were at 1,049,000 for actual collections for April. So we're starting to see that increase and some impact of the new rate. Any questions about impact fees?
What did you say the total collected to date is?
Total collected units
75.
or dollar amount, $74,988,992. Plus, that's without interest earnings. That's just with permits. Okay? Okay. Move on.
Yeah, our next agenda item is you as well,
Yes.
so if you want to
Okay,
keep going.
so I'll keep going. At the previous board meeting on April 15th, we, the administration, we presented to you our recommendation for the fiscal year 25-26 Fort Mill School District budget. Since the last meeting, we've had some important recent developments as of 4:35 today, in fact, regarding state funding methodology. I'd like to highlight for you tonight and for the public just some of this information because I think it's very important and I think it goes directly to why we have to recommend a budget to you that requires a tax millage increase and what is currently happening in the state as far as funding with traditional K-12 schools. This presentation actually came about through the South Carolina Association of School Administrators. It was developed by Ryan Bailey, who's the Director of Membership and Communications for SCASA, and he worked with some of my colleagues, SCASBO representatives, as well as State Department personnel, and compiled this presentation and this data. This actually was first seen by the superintendents while we were gone for spring break. Dr. Epps got an email and they requested that the superintendents log on to a Zoom meeting on the Friday of spring break. That was April 25th. And I'm sharing that with you to let you know how recent all this has come about. At that meeting, Ryan went over this in detail. The next Tuesday, which was a week ago on Tuesday, I was in Columbia at the SCASA Finance Roundtable meeting, and he presented it to us as well. We had a lot of questions and a lot of discussion, as you can imagine, a room full of CFOs, and we're all dealing with different numbers in our school districts, and so we had a lot of discussion. On the way home from that meeting, I called Dr. Epps, and we chatted about this and what we had seen, and we decided to, it would be in our best interest if we could try to organize and host a meeting here in Fort Mill for all of our 9 Old English Consortium, our OEC school districts. And we immediately started working on that last week. Monday at lunch, we held this meeting. We invited all 9 districts, their superintendents and their CFOs, as well as all of the legislative delegation members that represent those 9 school districts. I'm pleased to say that all school districts were in attendance at that meeting Monday. We had 5 of our legislators here in person, and we had several that we also offered a Zoom invite for that meeting. And we had several that logged on to the Zoom invite, as well as Grant Gibson, who is a Senate staff personnel. Grant actually helps write the budget for Senate Finance Committee and is very involved at the state level. He logged on, which I thought was very helpful for him to hear this from us as well and hear the discussion in the room. So I share that with you just to say we feel like we have hopefully helped move this process along a little bit in Columbia. We have since, Dr. Epps and I have gotten some feedback from some of our legislative members that were here, and they've continued to have discussions Monday evening and today before the vote came up at 4:35 today. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to go through every one of these slides in detail, but I just want to share a little bit of the highlights to make sure you all understand the impact of this in the state funding now with the new education funding formula. So we started out by explaining, why are we here? We have all across the state been working with the House Ways and Means projections, and these were released in mid-March. When the budget went through the Senate, I shared with you that there were no significant changes in the Senate version of the budget as far as what I call the big pot of funding and the allocation methodology. So we did not, as a school district, receive a separate piece of allocation documentation from the State Department Finance Office. So we have all been working with House Ways and Means. Those projections are also still based on the 45th day of school. So we know now we're going to receive new projections based on the 135th day of school, and then we would receive final projections this summer. So we shared with our legislators on Monday how difficult the new formula is to project. Before, when we were under the EFA, or Education Finance Act funding, base student cost funding, we felt pretty comfortable projecting our state revenue because it was X amount of dollars times the number of students. And if we were a district like Fort Mill, and I told them I could reasonably get close to what I thought we were going to get in state revenue based on the projected enrollment growth. Districts that were level, not growing, they could project, and even districts that were losing some students could project if they were going to lose state revenue and adjust their budget accordingly. But with this new methodology, we truly cannot project because it is all based on proportionate share. It is a mathematical formula based on proportionate share across the state. So the thought that growing districts should receive a bigger piece of the pie and districts that are not growing should receive less is not the way that this formula works. We may be growing, but if another district is not growing, but maybe they're growing in a certain area of weightings for their students, maybe they have more special ed this year than they did last year, they may receive more of an increase in dollars than we would receive. So it is all based on proportionate share. Also, when this came out, a lot of CFOs across the state started talking, and everyone started comparing their own calculations and realized that this 112 million, because remember the governor's plan and even Superintendent Weaver's plan requested 200 million to go into the state budget to fund starting teacher pay at 50,000. And when it went to the House Ways and Means, it came out with only a $112 million increase in the new funding. So it was a very material dollar amount, a decrease in the pot. And that has caused a lot of the problems with this. And so districts quickly realized we cannot even fund the $1,500 teacher pay increase that the state is saying teachers should get $1,500 increase. Also, as a reminder, if you're a district like we are that already meets the state minimum teacher pay, we really legally do not have to change our teacher pay scale. We would not have to do anything on our teacher pay scale. But as we told our legislators Monday, that is not something that we could consider. That would be very difficult to do. And every district, all 9 districts there said the same thing. That we understand we don't have to, but that would be very difficult not to increase teacher pay based on what the state minimum teacher pay scale is increasing by. So that was kind of our starting out message to them at the meeting. We really then said to them that we are not against charter schools. We understand they need to be funded and they need to be funded fairly. But the problem is that they are now in the formula where before charter schools were separate. They had their own pot of money. And so if they grew within their own pot of money, and it did not affect the traditional schools in South Carolina. But now that they are in the pot and in the calculation, that is where we are seeing the increased disparity in the amounts going to charters versus the traditional school districts. We saw, the CFOs, we saw this graphic for the first time at our meeting, and we all went, oh my goodness, that is a wonderful graph of how this works and how the statewide allocation is determined. This is how the 112 million comes about. It is basically the number of students in the state, which is slightly over 770,000, divided by the targeted student-teacher ratio that we've all heard, 11.2. And it is based on the very middle of the state minimum teacher salary schedule. So it is based on a teacher at a master's degree and 12 years experience. So if you think about that, every teacher that we have or we hire that is higher than a master's degree with 12 years experience, we are funding it locally. We are supplementing it locally. Does that, you see what I mean? Because the state is using that midpoint, and that's how they're coming up with the total allocation. This graph we also really liked because this shows you where things can affect you and it can become disproportional. When you start with the weighted pupil units to the left, each district's weighted pupil units, and you've heard me say, and we shared before in the old formula, if other districts did not accurately, had errors in their reporting, not intentional necessarily, but just there were things that had happened, or they grew, as I mentioned, they had a lot of new special ed students or some other categories, it did not affect us. And it's not that we didn't care, but we really didn't care because it had nothing to do with us. But now, anything that happens in any district in the state affects us. And we shared with our legislators Monday, we said, we are advocates. If there could be more review and audit of all districts and the data and the weightings, we support that 100%. Because we want everyone to be reporting accurately, and it's just so important now across the state. So it starts with our weighted pupil units. And then the charter schools pull out 100% because they have no tax base. So they don't have to meet the 75-25% split. They don't have to fund the 25% local because they don't have a tax base. They're 100% funded by the state, and then a small amount of outside contribution donations. But at the meeting that I attended in Columbia, several districts said, well, think about this. They said, we are in a district that our community will not support a tax increase at all. They said, we have not increased taxes in 10, 12 or more years. They said, so we operate like a charter school. And I thought, well, wow, that was a great statement. That makes sense. The thought that charters should have a higher weighting just because they don't have a tax base, a lot of districts just do not have the support to have an increase in their tax millage. And then we talked about this hold harmless back from fiscal year 22. There are currently only 4 or 5 districts that have any hold harmless funds. And it's not the districts you would think. It's not Fort Mill. It's not the other fast-growing districts in the state. It is some of the ones, like one is Allendale that comes to mind. I think Jasper is one. So that is somewhat that had good intentions. They were well-intended, but when you're growing and you're getting more revenue just because of your growth in students, they didn't hold they did not put the hold harmless at a fixed amount, if that makes sense. It was just comparing new total revenue in subsequent years to that total revenue amount. Did not take into account any growth. And so that's been a problem in the new funding formula. And then the funds are split by the proportion of weighted pupil units. And so we're going to talk about that. But we thought this was a great graphic to explain all the areas where this has problems, where the funding has problems. Now here, the weightings, the key thing to take away from this is a regular ed K-12 student, we get funded at 1.0. That's the base. When the new formula was enacted in 2022, and they discussed charter schools, and they said charter schools will get this additional weighting, and it will be 1.25 or 0.65, we all thought, okay, that means instead of 1.0 for every charter school student for a brick and mortar charter, they will get 1.25. That's reasonable. They're getting 2.25 because it's 1.25 on top of the 1.0, and that's because of how the proviso was worded. And I've heard several people say, I went back and they said, I've read it 3 times, and that's correct. If you read it word for word, that is what it says. Whether that was the intent or not, we don't know. Same thing with the virtual charters. The 0.65, we thought, well, that makes sense. They would not get a full 1.0 because they don't have brick and mortar. They don't have the facility to have all the costs related to a facility. But it's the 0.65 on top of the 1.0. So keep that in mind because these weightings are causing a significant difference in the allocations. And this just shows you, as we talk about the total dollars currently, we have 7 out of 100 students are charter students, and 14 out of 100 are charter school, or the weighted pupils. Once you put the weights to them, it's 14 out of 100. So this, I think, just shows you graphically the small amount statewide that are charter school students compared to total students in South Carolina. So I shared a little bit about this last time. The $112 million, that was the new state aid to classrooms funding. House Ways and Means, this is the split. So for 57,000 charter school students, they received $50.7 million. And traditional schools, which are the 700,000 rounded students, they received $61.2 million.
Just let
So-
that chart, let
so,
that
okay,
chart sink in.
For
Let's-
7%,
57,000 students
yes,
versus
7%
700,000.
or even 14%,
Correct.
ending up with close to 50.
45%.
That's the most
Correct.
common chart in the whole.
It is.
Right.
It is. Okay. And this shows it a different way, but prior to these new allocations, prior 2 years, it was a 75, 76%, 24% division between traditional schools allocations and charters. The House Ways and Means version, we were split 55% to 46. Do you see
With
the difference in the
700,000
shift of
students
what happened?
receiving
Correct.
Out of the 54%.
Correct. And this just shows you another way, same information. And here's what's happened with the state funding the last 3 years. The first year, or in '24, we were at, they funded it $324 million new money. Now we're down to $112 million in new money. This just gives you the same story, but the per dollar amount between traditional schools and charters, and the multiplier. So charter schools in the latest projections are getting 10.2 times what we're receiving per student. So why is this an issue now? This has been such a shift this year because of charter school enrollment has grown, and statewide traditional enrollment has decreased. And that's what's caused the shift. But it doesn't work proportional, like for us. We're not decreasing, but we're not receiving the amount that we should receive.
Well, and some
Also,
of the schools that are receiving extra funds, even though their enrollment is not increasing, are also on fiscal watch
Yes,
from the
some
State
of them.
Department.
It's a very unreasonable feel of what has happened with the allocation methodology. I think that's the best way how I think of it. It just does not seem right. And I think I said that to you last time. It just doesn't seem right.
So we had legislators see that
Yes,
number.
Monday,
What was their,
yesterday, yes. Yeah, what day is this?
what was their-
Yesterday.
what was their
um,
response to
They
that?
went, oh my, well, especially this one, well,
ones that actually
where we
understand
talked
numbers.
about, where we talked about the one that showed the 320-something thousand to the other number.
Yeah, the one Dr.
um,
Epps pointed out.
Yes, they were like, wow, I had no idea that the funding had decreased that much, the new amount of funding going
They're
in.
surprised.
They were very surprised.
That's why we don't know if it was intended
Yes.
or unintended.
Right.
They were very surprised. Here's
problem.
another
Either way.
where you can see how much of a change.
And I guess, yes, it is a decrease in total funding, which makes the pain that much worse, but the decrease in percentage.
The decrease in
Regardless of how much
percentage.
money is being given towards education.
Correct.
Is really what's dramatically out of whack.
Correct, yes.
I mean, if they choose to give less, they choose to give less, but.
So I want to flip back to this. So the teacher salary scale also, so the charter school increase in enrollment has caused part of the issue. The change that when the state last year changed the state minimum teacher salary schedule, and they moved a lot of dollars to the bachelor degree 0 through 10. You can see on here, see those 10, 11, 12% increases? So that caused some of the issue because they're only funding it on where that red circle is, and that's 3.89%. So they're funding it on an average of a 3.89% increase, but you had those cells last year that had a 10, 11, 12% increase. And so what happened statewide, because we did say numerous times yesterday, we said, this isn't about any one district in this room. This is about all of the districts statewide. What happened is, remember, this funding is only based on the teacher salary scale, but we have all of this other district employees, all the school support that we have salaries and salary increases for. We have operational costs. This is only based on teacher pay. So all of those other expenses have to be funded locally or from any difference we would have. And so a lot of districts said, well, you know, I used to have some available funds from this where I could apply it to other salaries. I could apply it to operational costs. But now that gap is so small because of the change in the state minimum teacher salary schedule that the amount they have available has diminished to a very small number because of this. So I thought this was a great chart to show everything in green is over that midpoint, and then it moves toward the darkest red are the highest ones over that midpoint. And this just shows one district. When this was started, they had the number of teachers in certain cells, and then now you look at how many teachers are at the higher level cells for their district and what the impact was. And same thing here with teacher pay. So I'm going to move forward. Well, this is an interesting slide. This shows if we did not receive any new state dollars this year, if the $112 million had been zero and there were no new state dollars put into the state budget, traditional school districts would lose $38 million. See in that the third column? And that $38 million would go to the charter schools. So it would have been a shift of $38 million this year without any new state funding.
For 7,000 more.
For
students.
7,000.
More students.
Yes.
Roughly, maybe 8, something like that.
So Leanne, are you
Yes.
saying the macro level for the state, the trend is down for public enrollment,
Correct.
but on the micro level.
1%.
Right.
1%.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
7,000 kids out of 700,000. 1%.
They went to out of 70,000, they went to 8,000 more.
Right.
But let me try to understand
Okay.
their frame of thinking. Statewide macro level is trending down, but if you zoom in on that, you have Fort Mill here on the micro level that's trending up,
Correct.
but we're subject to the downtrend that's all they're looking at.
Correct. It's all based on proportionate share. Averages and proportionate share. It's just the mathematical calculation.
Well, and I was a math major, but I didn't do it right. 0.001%. 7,000
You're
out of
kidding me.
700,000.
Yeah.
And that's what they call a downtrend.
Right.
And so if they
So-
don't fix that multiplier, then
Correct.
to maintain our level of service and paying our teachers, keeping the lights on for the same number of hours, giving kids the same amount of books, we have to ask our local taxpayers
Correct.
to fill the void
Yes.
if they don't change
Yes.
this multiplier.
And that,
Or you
Even
don't
then,
give
there's a
teacher
limit.
raises.
or you could
You
not
could
do
get at
teacher
it by
raises.
not giving
Yes.
raises.
But we
to
said that that's
the
unacceptable.
Teacher
Correct.
retention and
Yes.
the shortage, that's kind of an unacceptable option.
Yes.
But even then, we're subject to Act 388 rules that have to go based
Oh,
off the
yes,
consumer
that's
price index.
completely
and-
separate, right.
And so there's only a limit
A
to where we can,
limited,
because
right.
you're seeing year over year, that is massive percentages, and there's no reason to think that if this continues, that wouldn't be half of that the next year.
And, and we are, we are kind of on the upper end of that, the Act 388 formula with our growth.
Right.
Most districts
Don't have
cannot
that
raise
advantage.
millage or can only raise such a small amount
That they can't.
that they can't.
Yeah, we could call it an
Um,
advantage, but it's
yeah.
not a huge advantage to our community. It's
Right.
an advantage for the
Right.
district, though.
And we're starting to see articles every day about what districts are proposing in their budgets, and we're seeing teacher pay increases, for the most part, like $1,000, or saw one today, $1,050, up to the budget plan that we proposed, we had a $2,500 increase.
Unless you're in
yeah, go
Beaufort
ahead.
County,
Yes.
who has recommended a $60,000 starting pay.
So that was my next point. I've
Okay.
learned, this is very interesting and something we might want to consider in the future. Charleston, Aiken, and now Beaufort, and I think there may be one other one. They are at a higher starting, but it is frozen for 5 years. So they bring teachers in at a higher amount, but they will not get an increase for 5 years, other than if the whole scale, whatever the cost of living may be on their teacher scale for the next year and the next year. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
I did not realize that was how, I didn't realize that was how they were doing that. But they are pushing all their dollars into that starting, but holding it for a period.
And what does that
So-
do for those that have been with us for 20 years and more?
Well, it really doesn't, it doesn't take away from them. It's just, it would just mean teachers coming and starting their careers
At the same level
at
as
the same level, they
what's
would be
been-
frozen.
Yeah.
Or any teacher coming and starting at that. It is, and it's, because I had them send me theirs, and it's not just bachelor's degree, it's across. So it's gonna be bachelor's, master's plus 30, and doctorate. They're frozen for the first 5 years.
So I don't want to get too caught up in
So-
what they're doing, but
Yeah.
how do you handle the second year teacher with implementing this?
You would have to freeze them until
their fifth year.
Until their fifth
So you
year.
would freeze
Until
them
that,
for
you
3
would
more
freeze them
years.
where they are
So
now.
they'd get a nice raise.
They would get a nice rate, and then they would be frozen until the fifth year. So, I don't know, it could, maybe something we need to discuss
But
at
it would
some
be
point
hard
going
to
forward, but
attract a teacher from that area if you're paying 50
Right.
when the others are paying 60, even though you're going to be stuck at 60 for 5 years?
Right. Correct.
Wow.
But I wanted to share that because that's what they're doing. I did not realize we had any districts that were doing that.
Right?
Yeah,
No, I hadn't
I've
heard
been
that.
reading the clippings,
yes.
shaking my head.
Yes, but one of my good friends shared that with me last week, and I said, please send me your whole scale, because I want to
Yeah,
see,
right.
and I'm going to look at this, I'm going to see kind of, if they start that high, what do their
What is
upper
it?
sales
What is it?
look like compared to where we would be as well
Right.
for a lot of years' experience. But it's an interesting thought. It's interesting to see how different districts in different parts of the state are tackling this teacher shortage problem and teacher recruitment and retention.
Do you know if they're, just if you happen to know, does their state funding, do they get more state funding than we do?
They get more because they're larger,
Yeah,
but
but like
proportionately, I'm not sure as far as amount per student. I would have to look at theirs.
Well,
and-
we know they have higher poverty,
Yes.
so, and that's one of the weightings, so I
Right.
would, I would
So they're gonna
strongly
get more money.
suggest, yes.
Yeah.
Not anymore on the boats.
Okay, but
Boats are in trouble.
in the past, they've had vacation homes and boats and, and you said the other one was Aiken, right?
I heard Aiken. I have
Where
not
all the
looked theirs
horse
up, but I
people
heard
Have
Aiken.
their second homes to
I
keep
heard
their
Aiken
horses.
was one.
And we're a great community, but not maybe for vacations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of boats, not so many second houses.
Yeah.
So what is the proposed solution, or the stopgap? So what was proposed is certainly just a very short-term solution. There were two pieces to this that were introduced today. One was to reduce the virtual charter school weighting, not the brick and mortar weighting, but the virtual charter school weighting from the 0.65 to the 0.35. And Ryan Bailey, SCASA, they had run all the statewide numbers through the formula to make sure that every traditional district would get additional funding with this amount of change. And I'll tell you that it shifted about $18 million from collectively the the authorized charters to traditional districts. But it is not a lot of shift. It is just a very short-term approach. But for the three charters, two of them would reduce funding by 0.5%. The largest impact was to Erskine, and they would reduce by 5%. But it was overall an $18 million shift in these estimates. These aren't official yet from the State Department of the Finance Group, but just SCASA working with them and running these to give us some idea. So it would shift the overall, remember the chart where we had the 60 mil, we had the 45. It would shift it that traditional districts would now receive 70.78% of funding, and charters would receive 29.22, which seems a lot more reasonable. The other piece that was recommended was to form a task force committee, and this summer really dive into this in a lot more detail and try to come up with what is the longer term solution need to be for this. We feel like it needs to be pull the charters back out, fund them separately, let them have their own formula, really look at these weightings. So I'm happy to say at 4:35 today, Representative Bruce Bannister, who represents Greenville, he's also chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. He proposed, it was in the Amendment 1A, which is the amendment to the state budget plan. It's a very large document. You can find it online, but on page 5 of that document, it has the amendment to strike the .65 and insert the .35. The second piece also says the South Carolina Revenue and Fiscal Affairs Office shall review the student weightings used in the state aid classroom funding formula and examine methods to improve the alignment of state aid to classrooms with student enrollment, while ensuring districts and charter authorizers receive more consistent distribution. And this work should be completed and reported back to House Ways and Means by next December. So by December 1st, when they go back into session for next year. So this came up for a vote and it passed.
Wow.
So that is great news. We are very excited about that. So they call that the House 2 budget. So now it doesn't match the Senate version. So it will go to conference committee and they will name the House and Senate representatives, the conferees, and then it will be important that we start reaching out to those members and continue to get their support once we know who those members are. So I gave you also, and we can put this on, Donna and I can put this on board docs tomorrow. I gave you a one-pager that we shared at the meeting that I think does a really good job of summarizing all of this presentation on one page that you can use as we move forward once we know who the conference committee members are.
When will we know that?
Maybe this week,
Okay.
I think.
So I was in Columbia when all
Yes.
this
Happened?
blew up and whatnot. I was there Thursday and Friday, and we had a strong briefing for board of director members and whatnot for SCSBA, and then we were supposed to be in a board meeting, and we were kind of texting legislators and doing some things. It was supposed to also include, yesterday, I believe, Bannister's staff person that was supposed to be a part of the discussion and whatnot, and
Mark Truesdale.
okay, yes.
Yes,
Um,
he was.
but it has been a very jointed, grouped effort to help lead the legislators to recognize and see how grossly off this really is.
Unintended consequence.
Yes.
Of what I think was intended to be
Positive.
a positive act.
And that's what we're hearing as well.
Right.
So I think they're very open now that they are seeing this data because we also shared with them when this first was changed in 2022, I was very involved and went to several meetings with the Senate Finance Chair as well as Mark Truesdale, the chair of the House Ways and Means at that time, and we were told, we understand this may need some tweaking. That was the word used. It may need some tweaking, but we need to give it a little time. We need some more data. It may level out. I didn't really know what that meant, but they kept saying it may level out. But they said, be patient. And so now we're at the point where we're kind of like, okay, this is really a problem this year because of all the reasons we talked about tonight. So we are very happy that we are at this place with them now. I mean, certainly we wish that it could be more, but at least we now, I think, have the right people understanding it from the work that has gone in to compile all this data statewide. And so I commend SCASA for the work they did on it, School Boards Association as well as SCASBO for all the work, as you mentioned, that collectively has come together to do this.
Well, and hopefully we'll have some CFOs
Hopefully.
will actually serve on this committee to look at it, adjust, and present a better,
Yes,
thorough plan.
I think we will. I think we will.
It sounded like it.
Good, good. So what does that mean for us here, our budget situation? The the projections, I say projections, estimates, as I said, they're still not official, and it's still based on the 45th day numbers. But our change through the new formula, we would increase our state revenue $449,731. So that is using 360,000 as the value of a mill. That's 1.2 mills. So if we do not add anything, and you want to look not less millage, not going up to the max, that is an option. Or we could go back and we could bring to you the things that we think would be the next priority. I hope now I will receive pretty soon, if they run this through with the 135-day student data, I'll feel better about that number. But we have some options with this. I do need to go ahead and publish for public hearing. And so I would like to go ahead and do that based on what we presented. That doesn't mean that has to be the total budget that you approve in June. It doesn't have to be the millage amount. But we do have to publish the notification for public hearing before the next 15 days before by state law. So we'll have to do it before your next board meeting. So
I would think it would make sense. We have already gone public with, I'll call it a first draft, it's been reported in the news. I mean, it's not a secret that that was the maximum it could be. So I think it makes sense to publish the notice at what I'll call the worst case scenario, even though if this holds true and the 135th day numbers are even potentially more favorable, then that doesn't have to be the outcome.
But it also opens it up for some of those huge priorities that weren't even able to be
It does.
considered.
It allows us to then discuss and debate, right? Do we want priority 2s and 3s? Do we want less tax? Right, which is what I think our job is to have those debates and discussion.
Right.
So rather than limit by our publication, I don't think, because since we haven't taken a vote on which way we want to go with that, I don't think it would be prudent to reduce, not knowing how everybody would vote on that.
I agree. I think that's our best plan, is to go ahead and publish the notification of public hearing. And then as soon as, if I know anything different, I will, as soon as I get that information, I'll share it with you. If you want to be thinking about what direction you would like to see us go, please share that with me. I know this has sort of been instantly given to you, but like I say, this just happened. In the last couple of days, throughout the weekend, and then
Never a dull moment.
today.
That's right.
So, any questions, comments?
Yes.
Sure.
So this is going to go back to, and I'm going to be long-winded here for a second here. So I'm going to be all over the place. So I'm just going to ask you some questions. You don't have to answer them
Sure.
now.
Okay.
But I will want
Flip through
some
this.
answer soon. So the first question is, or what I would like to know is that we had approved some positions last year. And at one of the next meetings, I would like to get an update on, I call it return on investment.
Okay.
So would like to get an idea on our special needs, our special services department, our athletic department. Would like to get an update on that. That's important to me. So I just wanted to mention that. What I want to do here is I want to ask some questions here. And again, if you don't have to answer them now, but I'm going to answer them in the next meeting. So I want to start with the athletic fund. I have a deck from back in August, and you all had presented to the board. And so one of the topics that I recall that we spent a few minutes on was the athletic fee. I just want to make sure, I want to get clarity on this again. So how much is that athletic fee? Is it $100?
It's $100, and we haven't increased it in about 12 years at least.
Okay, so that athletic fee is typically for what?
The athletic fee covers, it helps supplement coaching stipends and transportation for league games. If a team goes to a tournament or something else they elect to do, they have to cover the transportation cost out of their school activity funds. So it covers transportation for league games, and it covers coaching stipends. But it does not 100% fund coaching stipends. You also have an allocation in the general fund. We have an allocation in the budget for each high school and each middle school that covers coaching stipends. So it takes that general fund allocation plus the $100 fee to cover the coaching stipends.
So the surrounding area,
The surrounding districts have more funds allocated in their general fund than we do.
okay, so from an athletic fee perspective,
And I believe right now, I'm accurate in saying Rock Hill has a $75 fee, but it's a one-time fee. It's not per sport. And Clover and York do not charge an athletic fee.
and they do not because of what?
I think they just have not felt, that was just not they went ahead and budgeted more out of their general fund
Okay.
to cover it.
Which also could be from their poverty ratings and whatnot, they get more funding to work with.
Okay,
They're also not opening all new schools,
Every other year.
It's just a choice.
which is, it's a choice.
It's a choice.
It's just a choice of what you put into your general fund budget.
Because you're mentioning athletics.
Yes.
But that same fee is true for arts and theater and band and other activities as well, right? And so I believe they don't have those fees, period. They just have them in their budget, in their general fund.
got it. So, athletic fee perspective, is there a reason why we have chosen not to increase? It's been 12 years, 13 years?
We actually had already put that on our agenda for the next board meeting.
Okay.
We would like to, we gave you that report on athletics at the beginning of the school year. We had planned to come back to you and kind of give you an update on where athletics stand for this school year. And as part of that, we have planned to share all of our current data as far as how many athletes we have per middle school, per high school, and propose to you possibly consideration of an increase in the fee at different levels.
Okay.
And then what we would propose to do with those dollars, which would certainly be to put them into some kind of increases or additional coaching stipends. Because all of those funds are kept completely separate than the general fund. So that was on our agenda for the next meeting already, to go into detail about athletics. Because as you recall, also last year, we increased our general fund allocation for athletics by $250,000, but I also shared that was not all that was needed to bring us back in balance. And I felt like I want to look at, I've been holding off because I wanted to see the most up-to-date numbers because we have so many spring sports and it's so expensive in the spring that I wanted to bring you the latest information on that for you to consider. So I wanted to pull the data as close to the end of the school year as I could for athletics to show you more accurate transportation costs. And then you could evaluate if you want to make any changes in that for next year.
Okay. Continuing, this is regarding the budget itself. So I've been a fan of at least 4 of the 5 years I have supported millage increase. And this go around for me is that there are a lot of questions that I'm going to have regarding this. I'm a teacher first fan, all those things, but I truly believe that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so when we take a look at all of the different components that help run this district, I think it's extremely critical that we take all that into consideration. That is substitute teaching. You know, what does that pay today? compared to the other school districts. We talk about, or I hear that our administrative pay is very good compared to the county schools. Our teacher pay is good surrounding the county schools. How is our substitute pay? You don't need to answer that now.
Okay.
but
Well,
it's just a
I'll
question.
share, and for that, we have not increased our sub pay in 5 years.
Okay,
I think we are at a market rate with our surrounding districts.
okay,
Because 5 years ago, we did increase it to make sure that we were in a position to have a good substitute pool, but we haven't increased it since 2020.
okay. So my point where I come back to is, we talk about the millage rates and such, and we typically are focusing on teachers, which is great.
Right.
But I think we got to get to a point where we're saying, I don't know if it's 1 year's teachers and the other year's the others, but we got to be able to take a look at a 360 view of those individuals that are working in the district. We like to say that we're very good at this, we're very good academically. I challenge us to take a look at all the other pieces that help us be as successful as we can be. So I'll leave it at that. I also want to get into the question I have is, when we look at the budgetary perspective, and I'm gonna look for an answer here whenever you all get deeper into the budget, but when we look at the actual achievement gaps, I want to be able to hear or understand that we can pinpoint in that budget that we have allocated for funds for the achievement gap, because we are very good here, very good here. We have some challenges right here. And I just want to be able to have an understanding of how we are allocating that information.
In our current budget.
Yes.
Okay.
Another one here would be, well, there was the coaching stipends, there was the athletic fee, support staff. Well, you mentioned in that budget, I think there is maybe on the second, number 2, I think, where there is maybe some increase in there for a percentage of increase for support staff, I think I heard. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay?
Yes.
Yes. But my point is, when I come back to that, is that's a percentage.
It is a percentage. And I will share
Mm-hmm.
that we've also, this district has always been one that we generally look at what is going to happen with teacher pay.
Mhm.
And we try to apply that as close as we can to all employee groups in the district.
Okay.
So when I looked at the $2,500 for teacher pay, that is a 5% increase to a starting bachelor 0 degree teacher level, and that's 5%. I couldn't get to 5% cost of living across the district, but this budget plan is a 4% cost of living increase for all other employee groups, because we're very mindful of that.
Okay.
We have never been a district where we do one thing for non-teachers and do one thing. We try to be as across the board as we can.
I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay?
Thank you.
We will work on these
Thank you.
questions. Other questions?
Anything else for Leanne?
Or things that you want us to look at before your next meeting?
Yeah, to go to
Okay.
Mr. Bodie's point about, I know we had kind of spoke about this, about our substitutes.
Yes.
And how we haven't increased pay. Are we seeing, what's the, kind of break that one down for me, what's like the daily challenge when it comes to substitutes? Are we seeing any kind of, is there any kind of normalcy that we're seeing there?
And I shared with you too, and I'll share it with the full board. I know I've heard us have a lot of discussion about it's not only the sub pay and the number of available subs per day, but we have seen a continuous increase in the number of days that we have to pull teachers out of the classroom
Right.
for meetings, professional development, and we have really making an effort to discuss that more collectively among the departments and among the schools, and try to lower that if we can. If we're going to pull them out for one thing, can we go ahead and accomplish 2 things that day? Does that make sense? Because we were seeing that a lot of this was not just because a teacher was out with sickness, family sickness. But we were pulling them out of the classroom for various reasons. And so we're really trying to look at that as well.
And we also increased number of personal days.
And we
So
increased the number of
that would
personal
have to have
days from
increased the
3 to
number of subs
5.
that are needed.
Yes, that's a great point. We did. Do you have anything to add? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I would personally like to see where we could make some improvements there.
Okay.
That's it.
We'll focus on that, pull that data as well. So, yep. Okay.
All right.
Thank
you. Kind of still budget related. I think our next update is student nutrition. Ms. Tammy Welch.
Good evening.
Who loves presenting at this every year.
Yes. Hi, my name is Tammy Welch. I'm the Director of Student Nutrition, and I'm here to provide you with a brief overview of the incredible work our cafeteria teams do each day to keep our students well-fed, supported, and ready to learn. Behind every meal served is a team committed to nutrition, food safety, and student well-being, and I'm proud of the work that we do in meeting this mission despite many, many challenges. Oh. Okay, so we are part of the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program that is funded by the USDA. This year, we are on track to serve 2.1 million meals across our 21 school cafeterias. And that's a testament to the dedication and efficiency of our teams. We currently employ 140 staff members, including 55 full-time members. We do have 4 chefs on our team now, and 85 part-time employees. 20 of those are substitutes. All 21 cafeteria managers are certified in ServSafe, as well as HACCP certification, which are food safety certifications. One thing we're really proud of is that every school scored 100% on their health inspections.
Wow.
Again this year. It's been like several years in a row. Our participation trends. Over the past 10 years, we've seen great gains in student meal participation. 10 years ago, we were at 9% breakfast and 39% at lunch. And then during COVID, when all students were free, we saw a good gain, 47% breakfast and 65% lunch. That momentum is carried on with us. And this year, we're expected to do about 21% of our students eating breakfast and 50% will eat lunch. The free and reduced meal program, we do participate in that, which is also funded through the USDA. Families may complete a confidential application to determine their eligibility based on their household income and sometimes other factors. Families must apply every year, and they can also apply anytime during the school year if their income changes. This program is a vital program to ensure our students receive access to breakfast and lunch every day. Currently, we're at 22.5% free and reduced. 77.5% of our students are full pay, 3% reduced, and 19.5% free. And this has grown over the years. I think 3 years ago, we were at 18%.
Are we the #1 district in the state?
The lowest.
Lowest.
Well, they don't really do that, do those numbers
We used to
anymore.
be.
We did. We probably still are, but they do CEP now, which is a little bit
That's what we
different.
Feed everybody, yeah, okay.
Well,
Community eligibility provision, the students eat free also.
in the whole community.
Yeah.
There's some bill or proviso or something that I keep reading about that sounds like people are gonna have to apply, and it doesn't sound any different than what we're already doing. Do you know if there's something?
Through the federal government or through the state
At the
government?
state level?
Yeah, that's just saying that we have to try to get people to apply for free meals. They do it
Okay.
every year.
Okay, all right.
Where does our revenue come from? As you know, we are totally independent from the general fund. We are a self-sustaining department, which means we have to generate our own revenue. to pay all our expenses. And our funding comes from the USDA with reimbursement and entitlement, and then we have meal prices sales, and we have a la carte sales where we receive our funding. Let's talk about our USDA reimbursement. So every meal that we sell, we're going to get money for our students to supplement the meal price. So paid students, when they buy a meal, they pay us their fees, and then the government's going to give us 51 cents. Reduced is going to be $4.12, and our free students give us, the government will give us $4.52. And then breakfast, the same thing, we're going to get some funding. And then they have another program called Severe Need, which we do have 4 schools that meet this special funding, and we get a little bit extra money for our reduced and free students for every breakfast we sell. Severe Need is based on a formula that the government does. We don't know who will be on that next year. Another important revenue source is USDA's entitlement funding. So the government every year allocates funds to us that we can spend on food. And we have some flexibility about how we're going to spend that money. Next year, we're on track to receive about $710,000, which is about 30 cents per lunch. We're going to get this funding. We spend our money 56% on fresh, domestically grown produce. That's what most of our funding will go to. 31% goes with our actual vendor, which is Gordon's Food Service, for net off invoice items. And these items are limited. We can select certain items. And then 13% is going to be on the USDA program, frozen vegetables, some canned fruits, some raw meats. A la carte sales is a big part, and we receive about $1 million annually. And we can't just sell whatever we want. It has to meet certain Smart Snack guidelines for nutritional parameters. And then our final revenue source is from our meal prices. So this chart shows what our meal prices are currently, and we have not increased our meal prices since 1718. Breakfast costs $1.35 for all students. Lunch at elementary is $2.25, and middle and high school pay $3 for their meal. We did have a $2.50 meal for middle school and high school, but we phased that out over the past 2 years. And basically, they pay $3 now. The reason why middle school and high school is higher because they receive bigger portions. We have different menu items that we offer to these students, and they have different nutritional calorie levels and components that we have to meet for these students. The reduced students are going to pay 30 cents for their breakfast and 40 cents for their lunch. This year, the State Department has made all reduced and free students free. The reduced students do not have to pay the 30 or 40 cents, and the State Department is covering that fee for them. It's about $126 a year for each reduced student. And you saw that our population is low in the reduced, so it wasn't that much money, but very much appreciated. Adult meals are also not funded. They are not funded by the government. So the federal government tells us how much we have to charge for our adult breakfast and our lunch. And then we have to put any local taxes onto that price also. So that changes every year, but they tell us how much we have to charge our adults. When we break down our revenue with USDA versus our paid students and other sources, we are 52% from our paid students, and about 46% comes from the government. The other 2% is catering and investments that we have. So other districts are going to be a lot different than us because they have a lot higher free and reduced. So their USDA is going to be way higher compared to their paid. And a lot of schools that are CEP, of course, are going to be pretty much almost 100% USDA and not much from the paid. We do not qualify for CEP. We look at our expenses. We are about 44% labor and 44% comes from food. Our supplies in the green are about 3.8%, and these include things like paper products and cleaning chemicals. And the remaining 8% goes to telephone, internet service, software fees, equipment, and maintenance of our equipment. So overall, our biggest investment is in the people who serve the meals and then the food that we serve. Our projected year-end financials for the end of this year, we are expected to operate at a loss, which we anticipated. We knew we had to do that because we have a fund balance that is mandated that we spend down. Total expenses this year were $10.7 million, and our total revenues are expected to be at $8.6 million with a $1.1 million shortfall. Part of our expenses were capital improvements to some of our kitchens with getting new equipment, new freezers, new coolers. So we planned for that. We also saw a loss of revenue due to the virtual makeup days. When there's no school, no money. We don't get any money for those days. So I think we had 7 days this year. So that hurt us with our revenue also.
Tammy, is the 1.1 million, is that the amount we were intentionally trying to reduce our fund balance by?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been reducing our fund balance for, this is the third year in a row, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, we had about the same loss last year. So that fund balance is shrinking up.
Okay.
We have to carry a 3-month operating expense, and then we can have fund balance on top of that a little bit, but not like we had. And that was from COVID. We did a lot of things, strategic things to increase our revenue during COVID. Other challenges we are navigating, of course, we have food supplies, labor cost increase. I know we're all feeling that. The cost of food and supplies and labor continues to increase. There's labor shortages still. We still grapple with that every day. Like many other districts and restaurants, we are experiencing staffing shortages. And to maintain our service quality, we did add more full-time people. We call them floaters. They're full-time floaters, so they'll go from school to school to fill in the gaps when people are out. The
I have a
USDA.
question for you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Question. So how's our staffing now compared to the last 3 years?
Well, pre-COVID, we had more lines open at the high schools, couple of the middle schools, so we haven't recovered from that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
But I mean, it works out, but the kids do have to wait a little bit longer to get their food.
I've noticed that, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we have USDA regulatory compliance. So this year, the USDA has implemented stricter nutritional standards, and they're going to phase them in over the years. I think 27 is the target. Lower sodium targets. The first time ever, we're going to have sugar limits on added sugar, which is a good thing. And then they're also going to be stricter Buy American standards. We have to mostly buy foods. All of our foods have to be from America, domestic, except 10% for next year. And they're going to slowly phase that down also. And these changes, of course, are going to increase our costs. We'll have to adjust our menus, train our staff on the new guidelines. We also have, the federal government has proposed changes to the free and reduced meal program. The proposal cut of $12 billion from the school meal program, which includes new income documentation requirements for families. They're going to have to show their actual tax returns possibly, or where they get their income. And that's going to be a barrier to many families. And when we have these barriers, that increases our meal debt. And we do have a problem, we know we do have meal debt that we have to contend with. But despite that, we still feed any child who comes to the line. We're still going to feed them regardless of payment. And then the South Carolina has a new bill, 4339, that's in, I guess, committee. They're talking about it. And that is going to limit food coloring in our foods and some food additives. We already track food coloring, so I'm not too concerned about that. And I'm really not concerned about the food additives either. I think we're going to be fine with that. But we're going to have to do a lot of research to make sure we're following those standards if that passes. So with these ongoing challenges, I am asking that we have a meal price increase. Like I said, we have not raised our meal prices since the year 2017, 2018. But during that time, all the prices have increased. So to help close the gap and continue providing high-quality meals, I would like to propose for breakfast, we're going to increase that by 50 cents. So it'll go from $1.35 to $1.85. Elementary lunch and high school and middle school lunch increased by 75 cents, which would make elementary lunch $3 and middle and high school lunch $3.75. And this adjustment is critical so we can maintain financial stability without compromising our food quality. If we look at other districts around the state that we are kind of comparable to, you will see that breakfast goes from $1.50 to $2.80, so we're going to be the $1.85. And then at lunch, the range for middle school and high school is $2.90 to $3.75. We'll be at the upper limit of $3.75 for that. And then the elementary lunches range from $2.65 to $3.50, and ours will be $3. Some of our surrounding districts, we of course can't compare to them because of CEP. All their students eat free, or most of their students eat free, so they're going to get a lot more funding than we do. And meal prices are going to fluctuate between districts because of menu offerings, salaries, and the USDA reimbursement. I'm skipping, I missed a slide. But basically, with this increase, it's going to bring us in $971,639 in projected revenue with this increase. We're also going to have to do some strategic decreases in our expenses also. And that will balance the budget, or be close to balancing the budget. We still have a little bit of spend down money that we can fall back on if we need that.
Tammy, a couple questions. There particular methodology you all chose to come up with the price increase?
Yes, we just ran the numbers to see where we needed to be with the shortfall, and then what possible cuts we could make to balance our budget.
Okay. Maybe this Mr. Rahman a question from a equipment rotation. How does this work? Are we on equipment rotation? Is it it breaks, we fix it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we have our own maintenance person.
Yes.
Who goes around and fixes equipment when it goes down, and we have a maintenance schedule that he uses to keep, but
Great,
our
okay.
equipment's pretty new. I mean, most of our kitchens have pretty new ovens and new dishwashers. We have a 10-year facility plan also that we go through when we possibly could need new equipment.
And occasionally it's
Dishwashers and
on the
freezers.
8% list, right? The 8%.
We were, but we really haven't been,
In a while.
yeah, because we've had
When there's
the-
a really big one, we've
Yeah.
put it on the 8% list.
if we've had the spend down money we've been able to use to not have to do that.
Well, I will
Project.
tell you, I think the employees, I've seen improvement on how they serve the youngsters, so I just wanted to say kudos to you. And I want to say this is a wonderful presentation. Great job.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do we have to vote
Next week.
next? So this is like a first reading? Okay,
I know you like to have time
to think about it and look at it.
about it, so,
Okay.
we will put it on the agenda
For action next time, okay. I mean, I'll just say less than $2 for breakfast and $3 to $4 for lunch. It's pretty good food too, in the grand scheme of things for that kind of money. That's very inexpensive compared to anything you can get anywhere else.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, at breakfast, we offer the entree, a cup of fruit and a milk, and then lunch is 5 components, all your 5 food groups. The students are welcome to take all.
We are so proud of our school lunches that we have included visits to the school cafeteria and
Yeah.
lunch at the school cafeteria in our day in the district for our future superintendent.
Oh, good, awesome.
Yeah, I should get a free meal every day.
I know, got good customer service.
Heads up. Yeah, and we have many times incorporated lunch with our school visits. And again, I say from firsthand experience, it's really quite tasty.
Yeah, we have
So,
great, we just have great workers.
It is a meaningful amount, of food and quality of food for a very small fee in the grand scheme of things.
Can't buy it anywhere else. Best
Right.
restaurant around town.
Biggest restaurant in town.
That's right.
Do we have any indication, because it's been, what, 7 or 8 years since we increased prices? Do we have any frame of reference of a decline in participation when we raise prices? I mean,
I think at first it might affect people, but then typically it climbs back up.
Okay.
But yeah, I
One
could
trip to the
anticipate
grocery
that.
store trying to get supplies for lunches and it's not up to par and it's 3 times the cost. You'll go back to buying a lunch.
I'm actually surprised our eatership, we coined that term before, hasn't gone up given the price of groceries. I mean, I'm surprised it hasn't gone up more recently.
Well, my son is probably the biggest fan.
A good customer.
Dad, we got Mandarin chicken today.
Is that him with the?
With his face.
Yeah, that
Container.
might actually be him right there. No, I do have two questions. So even with the price increase, is our goal, just so I understand, is our goal still to show a loss? Break even?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I mean, we typically want to make a little bit of money because we have maintenance on our equipment, or we have to buy new ovens, replace equipment, so we need to have some kind of money in the bank.
Sure. And the other one is, so when we go to conferences, one of the main vendors that are there is going to be food supply. So most, if it's my understanding, the vast majority of South Carolina, all
Contract
third
companies.
parties out there, out this portion. Why is it, and you can answer, or anybody from the district can answer, why is it important that we keep this in-house?
Well, you have more control. It's not for profit. I mean, we're not trying to make a profit. We're trying to feed our students the best food that we can and nourish
And
their
we
bodies.
actually had Tammy and as well as Leanne do a study, I don't know, before your time on the board, but probably 6-7 years ago because of that to see. And the costs were not less than the quality or quantity was
It's
not.
also your
was not better.
employees. I mean, you want our employees to feel part of the family. And when you're contracted out, they have the choice to stay with the district, and when they hire new people, they're going to be with a contract company. So they don't have the state benefits.
Yeah, so we looked at it because it is so prevalent and came to the conclusion that we like
I
our
mean,
system.
you guys would be shocked at the samples they have out.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
Well-
we got, like serving sushi.
So my daughter likes to laugh about, they can tell in the college cafeteria when the parents' visits are occurring because the food they serve on that day seems to be different than what they have the rest of the year. And I believe that might happen at conference as well.
Well, and I have heard honestly that the food that might be served to gain the contract might be very different
Well,
than food that actually gets
And you can look at Rock Hill, how many times they've changed contracts. You can look
Right.
at other districts, seeing how many times they've
Yeah.
changed to different companies.
The stability is not there the same as what we have and provide.
They offer
along
great
with the
samples, though.
quality. But
They
yeah,
do.
there's
The
samples.
Well, we can offer y'all samples too. Come on down.
Right.
No, we've been a part of, I think, some of y'all's catering stuff, and the food has always
Yes,
been
it's
the food
fantastic.
has always been so good.
Well, that's what I was going to say also. We just have always felt like, because we get calls all the time too from these vendors, but we've always felt like we did not have a need to look at that. We have such a great student nutrition department. We have great leadership with Tammy and her staff here at the district office, and we just felt like we could do a much better job ourselves than outsourcing it. And as she mentioned, also then it still keeps control. The principals have control if there's something they don't like at their school. Tammy and her staff here are very willing to listen. So we just never have felt like we had the need to outsource this. And the other thing I was going to mention, talking about paying for your son's lunch, we are going to do something, add an enhancement next year. We're working through that with the finance department now. We're going to change the credit card merchant provider so that we will have an option. Parents could set up an auto draft onto their child's account every
Praise
month.
God.
I know.
I hear
My
Ja-
youngest is graduating. This is kills me. I needed this.
I know.
I hear your son, Jackson Helms, has a negative balance. Oh my God, Juliana, call this.
So you can set up an auto draft for a certain amount whenever you want it to draft on there.
Right.
Also, we're going to set up where you would, once your child's lunch balance got down to a certain level, then it would auto draft. So both options we are currently working on.
Love it.
So, yeah.
Love that.
You can
All
also,
right.
Scott, sign up to be on the Angel Fund and help pay down our meal debts.
But there you go. There we go.
Thank
Send me
you.
the
All
information,
right,
for
thank
sure.
you very much, Ms. Welch. That brings us to our superintendent's report.
You only got about 45 minutes. You want to take a break before I do? Let's jump right in. As Joe Romanick tells me, let's go.
Let's go.
Every day.
Let's go.
Starting tonight, the school board meeting, executive session at 5, which y'all have already done. Now the public's still in place. On May 12, the school board visits to Pleasant Knoll Elementary and Pleasant Knoll Middle. You'll notice they're starting earlier because I believe that's one of the days y'all are interviewing
Correct.
folks. And y'all, 9 o'clock was what I was told, right? Are we
That is
good with that?
correct.
I mean, we can change that if we need to.
That is correct.
The 14th, that's next Wednesday, I believe, the Fort Mill School District retiree banquet at 5:30. Then on the next day, the support staff of the year brunch at 9 that morning. Then on Monday, as Lippy has mentioned, the superintendent finalist in the district on the 19th, exciting day there. Then the next day, we have the second meeting of the month, public session. Then we get into and that's the last week of school. The 22nd is a half day and the 23rd is a half day. We have graduation on the 23rd, and you see the times listed there. The Catawba Ridge at 10, NAFO at 2, Fort Mill High at 6. Then we get the Memorial Day holiday on the 26th, teacher work day on the 27th. Then we come back on the 3rd, hopefully to have the public hearing and the vote on the budget at the public session I guess we'll start at 6 on the public hearing that night. Is that okay? There may be other dates I'm failing to mention. It's a busy month.
Very busy
Just let me know if y'all have other dates to point out.
I actually don't.
Okay, let's keep rolling. Teacher attendance, well, no, let's do student attendance first. We're doing our typical slow climb each month. We went from 18,430 to 18,446. Remember, you back out and you add on the 76 or so we had at mid-year graduation, and you're well above the 18,500. Questions about that? Then the teacher race. I don't know what Nation Fort High did, but they went from 91 to 98 teacher attendance from between March and April. The lead, the district. The Kingstown was second at 98.09, and Forest Creek Middle third at 96.91. So we're getting winding down. Any questions? We got executive session left, so I only took 3 minutes instead of 30.
Okay. Well, if that's all you have, we are in need of an executive session, following a second executive session to discuss legal issues, contractual issues, and personnel recommendations.
Motion
So,
to go into executive session.
Second.
we are now in executive session. Thank you all for joining us this evening.
Thank you.